While major differences still remain between the United States and Cuba, officials and residents of both countries are lauding the reopening of embassies in Washington, D.C. and Havana. The Cuban flag was hoisted over the Cuban embassy in Washington, D.C. during a ceremony held on Monday. Meanwhile, operations in the U.S. Embassy have officially begun in Havana. Cuban Foreign Minister Bruno Rodriguez called for an end to the blockade on the island nation and the return of the Guantanamo Bay naval base to the Cuban people for this new stage of relations to have true meaning. With more now in Washington, here's our correspondent, Bianca Perez.
It was for you.
A historic moment was lived Monday morning in Washington, D.C. after 54 years of broken relations between Cuba and the U.S. when the flag of the island nation was raised in a ceremony marking the opening of its embassy.
With the reestablishment of diplomatic relations and the reopening of the embassies, today concludes the first stage of the bilateral dialogue and begins the complex and probably lengthy process for normalizing bilateral relations.
The event gathered hundreds of people, among them organizations who support the ending of the economic blockade in Cuba and who hope that this first step will help to reach that milestone.
We believe that it is a good step. The next step will have to be the end of the blockade and many other things. But we are happy and hopeful that it is a good sign toward a friendly relationship. A friendly relationship and a reunion of the two countries.
Though many see this as a stepping stone, others view it as an affirmation that Cuba as a sovereign nation is finally attaining the respect it deserves from its northern neighbor.
A country which has invaded Cuba, a country which has terrorized the Cuban people, a country which has led biological wars against Cuba, a country which to this day has a program to destabilize the government with $30 million annually. That country now recognizes that Cuba is a sovereign country and it must be respected.
Among the more than 500 attendees were dozens of national and international media outlets, marking the historical importance of this event.
It's a historic moment and I feel really fortunate to be present for something like this. It has been so many years, which means that it is really important.
Although the United States Embassy began functioning as such today, Secretary of State John Kerry will travel to Havana on August 14th for a ceremony in which the U.S. flag will be raised. Bianca Perez, Telesur, Washington, D.C.